Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. And we have one hell of a battle for you today. This is a super ship domination battle on the estuary map, although there's only one super ship on each side. Both teams have a USS Jacksonville. Wow, somebody's been spending money. Both teams also have one of the new Pan-American battleships. The enemy team have the Tier 10 Libertad, and Reyeth here, his team, have the Tier 9 Los Andes. Today must be the Battle of the Big Spenders, which I suppose is kind of appropriate, given that Reyeth himself is sailing a premium ship, the Napoli here. It's a very good ship, and it's also kind of different to other Italian cruisers, which I suppose makes sense. If you're going to sell a premium version of a line that already exists, you have to do something to make it stand out from the crowd, while also sharing some similarities. It's got the Italian cruiser high-speed smoke, for example, but where the Napoli's different is in two respects. It doesn't get semi-armor piercing ammunition for the main battery guns. Instead, it gets your standard high explosive, which means you can set fires with the main battery guns. The other way it's different is its secondaries. Generally, Italian cruiser, and to a large degree Italian battleship secondaries, although there are exceptions, they're just hot garbage, because a lot of them rely on 90mm secondaries, and 90mm is such a small caliber that the high explosive shells can't even penetrate the armor plating on destroyers, which means that generally Italian secondaries are usually only good for starting fires and nothing else. However, the Napoli secondaries are not high explosive. They're semi-armor piercing, and semi-armor piercing works kind of like high explosive, except it can't start fires, it doesn't have any splash damage, but it does have higher penetration. And the Napoli secondaries also come with increased accuracy. It's usually a complete waste of time on an Italian cruiser or battleship to specialise into secondary gun batteries, but on the Napoli, it's not a completely terrible idea. Now, I'm pretty sure that Reyeth hasn't done that, although I'm also sure he has actually gone for increased range on the secondaries, not so much to do damage with the secondaries, but to activate the top grade gunner skill. You see, with this skill active, and it does become active at certain points during the battle, you get an increased reload on your main gun batteries whenever anything's within range of your secondaries. And since the Napoli gets increased accuracy on its secondaries anyway, it seems like a reasonable middle ground between going a full secondary build and just making the most of the value to the main gun batteries that you can get from having increased range on the secondaries and the top grade gunner skill active. Now, like other Italian cruisers, the Napoli doesn't get a massive range of options when it comes to consumables. It doesn't get radar, it doesn't get hydro. But this is one of those circumstances where you don't need to have hydro to know that there are going to be torpedoes on the way. That's a Jaeger, and its torpedoes are deadly. He's popped his high-speed smoke, although he is still spotted because he just fired the main battery guns, but now he's letting the secondaries do the work for him. And look at the damage numbers from these semi-armor piercing secondaries. I mean, I like running ships with secondary builds, like the Massachusetts, for example, but the Massachusetts has significantly larger caliber secondaries, and they don't do that amount of damage per hit. He definitely wants to kill the Jaeger, so even though he had gone undetected with the high-speed smoke, he's going to risk it for a biscuit. There it is, he's got the first kill of the battle. And there's the top grade gunner skill in action for it. Oh, actually, he didn't get the first kill of the battle. A Jaeger was the first casualty, but it was a friendly Jaeger who died just seconds before he nailed the enemy. Now, again, with a high-speed smoke active, he's undetected here. And again, he's just letting his secondaries do the work on the golden line over there. And he absolutely must have increased range on the secondaries. By default, the secondaries on the Napoli have a 7.2 kilometer range. And they were scoring hits on the golden line at a range of 9.4 kilometers. Got a double fire here though, but that's not a huge big deal. Double fire on a battleship is seriously bad news because fires on battleships last 60 seconds, but on a cruiser they only last 20. He's used the damage control now though. It's generally a good idea to use the damage control if you know you're not about to be retargeted by more high explosive fire and therefore about to get set on fire again. And the golden line has switched to the armor piercing, so yep, it was a good gamble. He's undetected again, of course, the golden line is firing blind. Well, he's managed to successfully disengage, which was 100% the right move there. Continuing to prosecute the fight against the golden line would have left him vulnerable to, well, just look at the minimap, at least 6 enemies. and he's already lost half of his health. Fortunately, the Napoli does get the damage repair party consumable, so he's managed to recover some of it. Couldn't recover it all, though. Although we can probably get about 5,000 to 7,000 back the next time the consumable comes off cooldown. Spotted from the air. Oh yeah, that's right. The enemy team have managed to sneak an aircraft carrier in. They've got a Kearsarge hybrid. Not necessarily a bad thing, though. A lot of hybrid battleship players seem to forget that they're hybrid battleship players and forget that they've got really, really big guns and just spent the whole game flying their aircraft squadrons around and getting shot at. We can but hope that this is the case today. Oh, and sure enough, here it comes. Rocket attack planes. I don't know exactly what kind of rockets the Kearsarge's aircraft fires, but the Napoli is just a cruiser. It's not that well armoured, and well, that could have been worse. Wasn't that bad. Of course, the fact that he was spotted from the air is probably a slightly bigger problem. He's starting to take a lot of incoming fire. He's actually surface spotted from something. That has to be the enemy submarine. Ooh, he took a big hit from somebody. And he's been pinged. Yep, enemy submarine. Notice what the enemy submarine did, though. See the homing torpedoes? Yeah. See, a lot of submarine players will make the mistake of pinging a target and then launching the torpedoes, giving the target plenty of time to clear the ping with the damage control and avoid the torpedoes. What that submarine did was he'd already launched the torpedoes and then pinged the target just before they hit. And it was only Weyrith's fast reactions that prevented multiple torpedo hits there. Oh, more of Wargaming's bullshit at its finest. The Smolensk, light cruiser, broadside target, 4 hits, all over penetrations. Now, you can understand that if it's 16-inch armor piercing from a battleship, but this isn't 16-inch armor piercing. However, the Smolensk has miscalculated. Oh, more submarine torpedoes. I don't think they're guided this time, though, but he does take one of them. You see, when the Smolensk angles, that actually works against it, and he didn't have any choice other than to angle there because he was trying to reverse off the island that he ran into, and angling against incoming armor piercing in a Smolensk is a very, very bad idea because that just gives the fuse on the shell time to arm and actually explode inside the ship and cause a citadel rather than just harmlessly over-penetrating. So there's his second kill. Note that he's basically relying on the secondaries again here. He's been undetected for some time. Then, of course, the submarine popped out, so there goes the high-speed smoke. Direct hit with the depth charges. Launching depth charge strikes doesn't reveal you. Neither does using your secondaries. The submarine is submerged and not at periscope depth, which technically means you can't use your guns against it. He's waiting for the depth charges to come off cooldown as the sub does a little bit of border humping there. You would think that an armor-piercing shell would still be able to hit a submarine that's submerged, because it would arm on impact with the water and then basically, yeah. But no. Anyway, doesn't matter. Kill number 3. Got it with the depth charges. And he's once again undetected. He has lost an awful lot of health, though. At one point, he was down to less than 5,000 hit points. So he's going to need to be extremely careful. He switched to armor piercing though, and it's really difficult to avoid the opportunity to do some damage to a destroyer spotted in open water when you have it. And the Forest Sherman has ducked into cover, so even though he was spotted, when he took the shot, the Forest Sherman's got no interest in eating any large caliber high explosive shells, so he's again undetected. Totally worth the risk. He knows the Forest Sherman. You don't really need to worry about torpedoes from a Forest Sherman. It's one of those ships that looks incredibly bad on paper, and its torpedoes are. But even though it's only armed with 3 5-inch guns, yeah, I know, at tier 10, it's terrible. But you have to respect those guns, because they only have a 1.5 second reload. The amount of firepower it's capable of putting out is actually kind of scary. Again, he's risked it for a biscuit, took a couple of shots at the Golden Line, gotten himself spotted, and he's actually managed to set a fire. But the Golden Line's guns weren't pointing in this direction, and I'm not really sure, but I think at a range of 17.2 kilometers, he's actually out of shooting range. What he is not out of shooting range of, however, is the Kearsarge. Now, the anti-aircraft guns were just firing at aircraft, which usually means it's a good gamble to assume that the hybrid battleship player isn't actually controlling the ship directly. But the Kearsarge over there, I think he is, because he just fired at something. And he's just fired at something else. Now, this is good news because it means the guns are not pointing this way. But when you're cruising around On 20,000 hit points with one charge of repair party left, it's never a good idea to just assume that the guy with the 16-inch armor piercing shells is going to keep pointing his guns in another direction, so let's just duck in behind the island, just in case the Kearsarge realises he's got a Napoli roving up his Jaxie. So he doesn't have to worry about large caliber AP from the Kearsarge, at least not now. The Jacksonville is way too far away. That means he just has to worry about the Forrest Sherman. And from that angle, even with a 1.5 second reload, the Forrest Sherman can only bring one gun to bear on him. So, again, not much of a risk. Now, kill number 4. They're ahead on kills, but they're still behind on points, and the enemy team have one more cap circle. The Kearsarge's guns are not pointing this way, however, so again, this is an acceptable risk. Oh, and there's the Confederate award. It seemed like that salvo, backed up by the secondaries, would have been enough to kill the Kearsarge, but no such luck, so he's swinging the guns around while angling. But the guns aren't even pointing this way, and it doesn't matter. The Los Andes took it down with its own secondaries. And that, in combination with the team flipping the cap at Alpha, has put them ahead on points. Although they're not going to stay that far ahead on points, because then the enemy Venezia finishes off their Thunderer, but they do still have a slight points lead and they have a 2-kill advantage. Both teams are even on cap circles. Rayeth now has something of a conundrum before him, because there's a golden line over there that's a low health target and he should be able to kill, but there's a Shikishima ahead of him. For those of you who don't know what's so special about the Shikishima, it's basically a Yamato, but with 20-inch guns. Those things clap cheeks. So he does not want to get spotted and shot at by the Shikishima. But if the Golden Lion is the one spotting him, he can fix that problem with a quick and dirty salvo. There it is, Kraken Unleashed. Unfortunately, he is still spotted. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure it's the Shikishima who has him spotted now, because it was about 14 kilometers away when he took out the Golden Lion, and the Napoli's guns have an 18.9 kilometer range, which means anybody with a direct line of sight within 18.9 kilometers can now see him. Yep, there's the Shikishima, and the fact that he just popped up must mean that he is just fired. And he has 20-inch gun. Here it comes. Oof. That could have been a lot worse. Now, due to the way detection works, he should only have to wait a few more seconds to go undetected, since it's been about 20 seconds since he last fired his guns. Yep, there it is. Now would be an extremely bad time to take another shot, either at the Shikishima or the Jacksonville. He's got, 15,000 hit points. The Jacksonville can nuke him down in seconds, and the Shikishima, with its 20-inch armor piercing, only has to get lucky once, and it's game over. He waits for the secondaries to start firing, which basically means he's now gotten surface spotted, since his secondary range and his surface spotting range is pretty much exactly the same thing. And here's the really clever part. See, I don't know what the smoke firing penalty is on the 254mm guns that form the Napoli's main gun batteries, but Rayeth does. For those of you who are unclear as to exactly what's happening here, firing your main battery guns while you're in smoke has an excellent chance of getting you spotted, despite being in smoke, depending on the caliber of the guns. Larger calibers have an increased smoke firing penalty. If you're in a destroyer firing away inside a smoke screen, you can pretty much blaze away with impunity, because a destroyer's smoke firing penalty is so short that it doesn't really make any difference anyway. But the bigger the ship, and the bigger the guns on the ship, the further away the enemy needs to be in order for you to be able to shoot at them from within a smoke screen without getting spotted. Rayeth knows exactly how far away he can be from a surface spotted target while within a high-speed smoke and still be able to shoot at it and remain undetected. I mean, he's detected now, but it doesn't matter, he's already flipped the cap. And, well, the Shikishima's guns aren't pointing this way anyway, although the Jacksonville's are. And the Jacksonville, in case you're wondering, is basically a USS Worcester, just with even more guns. And yeah, it's exactly as scary as it sounds. But the Jacksonville is inside secondary range, and the Napoli has a pretty quick reload on its 254mm guns, so it's entirely possible that the Jacksonville could take him down, but, well, they're 200 points ahead, they've got 3 of the 4 cap circles, and kills are kills. The Jacksonville's managed to set a fire, he's down to 5,000 hit points. And then a bunch of things happen at almost exactly the same time. The friendly Jacksonville kills the enemy Venezia. The enemy Jacksonville kills Rayeth, and then Rayeth's secondaries finish off the enemy Jacksonville, who was the last surviving ship on the enemy team. So that's kill number 7 and victory for Rayeth in the Napoli. The game gave him the Confederate, it gave him the 2 Close Quarters Expert Awards, it gave him the Kraken Unleashed. It did not give him the It's Just a Flesh Wound Award. He was robbed. He was dead at the time where he got the last kill. He should have also gotten that reward. But based on that performance, it's not hard to see why that was a 3,000 base experience match. Very unusual to see Italian cruiser captains who actually know how to use their high-speed smoke properly. A lot of them think it's some kind of invisibility screen and they just don't understand the smoke firing penalty. But Rayeth 100% did. And look at the damage his secondaries did. 73,000. They actually did more damage than the main gun batteries. Wow. Anyway, congratulations, Rayeth, on a well-played game. An extremely well-deserved 3,000 base experience, and I hope everybody enjoyed and hopefully learned something from watching him do it. As always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.